Dioso. I'm the editor of Ad Age Studio 30, and it's so great to be in the Female Quotient again. Thanks to the Female Quotient for having us. One of the first big projects that I was assigned to oversee when I first started heading up Ad Age's custom content studio back in 2018 was an idea for a group of marketing, advertising, and media leaders called The List, whose mission was to address industry-wide issues and hopefully create meaningful change. It was a partnership between Ad Age and our friends at Meta, and we honestly didn't know if it would work or even last beyond the first year. And today I'm proud to report that The List is going strong in its sixth year and has grown to include some 150 members. Among the issues the list has tackled are equitable parental leave, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and mentorship for underrepresented groups in the industry. And in 2023, the list published the Modern CMO Playbook, which is the thought leadership series that would identify the most pressing issues confronting the industry. And later today, the list 2024 is publishing its first article to add to the Modern CMO Playbook on adage.com. And I'm pleased to be joined by list members who span different classes of the group to discuss the main focus of that article, the importance of community building, both for fostering an internal culture and for connecting with a customer base that is ever more diverse in myriad ways. So I am very pleased to introduce today, to my left, let's start with Jenna Berg, the VP of Brand Marketing at G6 Hospitality. Welcome. Marissa Nance, the founder and CEO of Native Tongue Communications. Suzanne Powers, the founder and CEO of Powers Creativity. And Kwame Taylor-Hayford, the co-founder of Kin.
Thanks.
All right, welcome. Thanks, guys. Let's get into it. Actually, before we get into the questions, I'd just love you all to introduce yourselves. Just give us a little bit more background about yourselves, and not just that, but also what's new with you, and what are you excited about, or what are the things that you're most, concerned about. Start with you, Jenna.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I'm Jenna Berg. I'm the Vice President of Brand Marketing for Motel 6 and Studio 6. I have been with the brand 4.5 years now, but it was not my first foray with the brand. I was actually the account director, the advertising agency for almost 5 years before that. So I've been working on this brand for quite some time. So my role, I came on in 2020, and we pretty much scrapped everything except for our Red 6, our We'll Leave the Light On tagline, and Tom Bodette, and kind of rebuilt the brand up. And so, as we're going, it's more of a continuation of everything going on with that rebuilding process. This has been an especially difficult year for our guests when it comes to inflation and the cost of living. So our challenges this year is really to stay top of mind and build that brand affinity with them. So when they are ready to travel or they're able to take that next trip, we're there for them.
Marissa was just jetted in.
Hi, I'm Marissa Nance. I'm the founder and CEO of Native Tongue Communications. Founded in 2019, we are the first and only female and minority-led media agency to exist. That I jettisoned to after a 30-plus year career in the Omnicom system. I am especially happy that my plane was not delayed this morning, and I got in from LA right on time at 6:30, and I was able to get here to be here with you.
Well, you look amazing. Did you stop by the makeover bar, or was this the way you always look?
Well, I was going to say, and what I'm hopeful for is these eyelashes stay on, because this was like, it was me in the car trying to spackle a face on with a little help from the young lady over there when I got here. But so that's my hope, that everything holds together.
All right, Suzanne.
It's holding together well. I can tell. I'm Suzanne Powers. I'm the founder of Powers Creativity, which is my new little company I started 9 months ago. And prior to that, I was at McCann World Group, Crispin, and TBWA. What's new with me? John, I'm starting a company.
Yeah.
That's what's new with me.
Exactly.
It's a lot. It's a lot of good. It's a lot of hard. You didn't say what classes we're from, by the way.
Oh my God.
That's a long time.
Can you tell me?
2023?
2023, Marissa?
I'm 2023, yeah.
I think I'm your second class or first class.
Yeah, I think
don't
it might
know.
be 2019.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That could be the first class. You are first class all the way, Suzanne.
Thank you.
All right, Kwame.
I'm Kwame, co-founder of Kin, a company that works at the intersection of creativity, impact, and culture. Class of 20? Class of 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
21? 2021. And yeah, very excited to be here with these incredible women to talk about how we can continue to grow and nurture strong, kind of thriving communities.
Excellent. And any other news you'd like to share with the group, Kwame?
There is some other news, actually. So I was just inducted as the new president for D&AD, so very excited about that. And yeah, there's so much incredible work that we're doing to uplift creatives from all over the world, and excited to continue that mission.
Yep, and just back from London, so and you look amazing as well.
Not as good as Marissa, but
So true.
Y'all are just blowing up my head. It's gonna match my afro in a minute.
All right.
The size
Compliments
of my
are
head.
over.
Come on now.
We gotta do it. So the first thing I wanted to get into is we were talking about, the topic being about building internal communities and also externally with your customer base. Well, I want to get into internal communities first and empowering teams. And I want to start with Suzanne, and you talked about being at McCann for a long time, and now you're starting your own company. So I'd love to know what you learned from your experience at McCann and everything you did there, and the growth of the company while you were there, but then how it's informing your new business.
Yeah, thank you. So, 10 and a half years at McCann World Group, and I will tell you all out loud one of the secrets of the success, because this was a transformational time in the company, injecting creativity across a quite large organization of 15,000 people. And one of the secrets of that was community. We had strategy community, they still do, by the way, are doing a brilliant job, but strategy communities, digital communities, tech communities, creative communities, business leadership communities, and those transcended across every company and every geography. So what that did in turn is, regardless of what your role was in your day-to-day, you were part of this community that was sharing beliefs, behaviors, but also the work. And it made everything travel much faster. So as I start my little company, which is 3 of us now versus 15,000, I'm still taking those learnings in, because a lot of what we did within there was, when you have community like that, there's no ego. You're focusing on the work. You're, again, transcending borders. You're educating and teaching while doing. And even as I start with 3 people, we're doing that internally. And then externally with my clients, I'm helping them develop communities and helping them figure out the power of that within their own internal infrastructure, but also across industry and across some of the sectors that they would have been competing with.
So Jenna, I want to get into you because you're a representative from the brand world here, and Motel 6 or Six Hospitality, G6 Hospitality, runs a franchise model. So talking about building internal communities, how it must be a significant challenge to be able to build some type of brand community when it's so spread out across the country and all these different franchises. How do you do that?
Yeah, and it's especially difficult because we do have 1,500 franchise locations that are individual businesses that people own and then hire their own employees. And when it comes to branding and your mission and how you represent your brand, that has to carry through from marketing all the way on to the experience on property. And so if that's not coming through by your frontline staff, then all the work you've done from a marketing standpoint is disingenuous to your guests now, because you've lost their trust because you haven't followed through on the brand promise. And so when we went through our rebranding process, we kind of distilled down this idea of light the way, which was the core crux of everything that we did. And so when you look at anything across our brand, it comes to one key piece. How that rolled out from a training standpoint is, we like the word light, it's part of our brand. We'll leave the light on for you, right? So we named them light keepers, because there truly are the people that are keeping the lights on for our guests out in the field. And we build out a whole robust training program. We have over 90% compliance with our ownership group in our training program. And then our field staff is on property every day, ensuring that those values are being lived through, and then making sure that everything that we say in marketing is carried through every single touch point a consumer can have with us.
Kwame, you mentioned before about the importance of building internal teams that foster creativity and innovation. So what do brands get wrong when hiring for these attributes, and how can they better nurture talent that contributes to long-term community building?
I think the thing with talent is you have to get inside of what is motivating and what is exciting for that talent. And in some cases it's the work, in some cases it's the relationships and the interpersonal dynamics, in some cases it's the challenge and it's the opportunity. So I think that's a really important piece. In the context of D&AD, for example, everyone that comes to the organization is maniacally focused on craft and achieving the very best craft and execution in whatever their lane is, whether that's art direction or design or digital. And so we're always big on, how do we empower that? How do we give them more access, more perspective, more training, more tools to empower them and to allow them to achieve that ultimate dream of being one of the best craft practitioners in their lane. So I think it's really important to get to the core of what's motivating and what's exciting for any given sort of talent, and the reason why they're coming to you as a brand or as an organization or as a community, and then create some unlocks. Help fuel their journey, help empower them, help drive them forward.
Okay. Marissa, so Native Tongue focuses on integrating DEI into internal culture. How does getting internal culture right first translate into stronger, more genuine external consumer engagement?
Um, the DEA and I space is one of the three verticals that NTC focuses on, and what we like to think we do better than anyone is build that bridge between working with corporations internally through their workforce and having them understand why it's important and how to get to a space that is going to make impact, and then bridging and translating that to external ROI, profitability, and revenue, which I think those three words makes everybody sit up. Everybody in the audience went, what? Huh? What? Revenue, profitability? What? I'm awake. What? What? So those are what we're looking for, and that's what you want. So for us, it all begins two places. One, the audience. And when we talk about audiences and knowing your audiences, we speak in terms of, and we specialize in what's traditionally called multicultural audiences. We don't like that word. I don't like that word. I find it offensive. I use the word microcultural because it's 2024 and we live in a world of marriage between data and analytics and then the insights. And so that's microcultural. We can dig so deep, and I love that so much. I trademarked it, so I own it. You can use it, but you got to pay me. um, and taking those microcultural insights and mixing them up with this innate understanding and this empathy of the audience allows us to go in and again build that bridge and inherently work through what's going on inside of a company and opening up that empathy gene, right? That muscle of empathy, and helping them understand the benefit not just for themselves but for their corporation externally with audiences through.
Right, the next thing I want to get into is actually talking about external, but actually before we move on, we're all very young people on this stage, like extremely young and good looking, right? But you know, uh, one of the things that's changed in the past few years, a lot of people in our industry have been so hyper focused on Gen Z, and talking about building internal communities. And I think it'd be loath to move on before we kind of address that. You're all bosses, founders, um, recruiting younger people, and how has that changed? And how has the experience of the past few years changed how you approach recruiting them and how they contribute to your own internal culture? Just anyone want to take it, Kwame?
Yeah, I'm happy to dive in on that, and I think it's been a really tough couple years, right? You had, COVID, which had everyone dissipate from office buildings and work from home, and you've had pretty tough economic situations that have led to, I think, a dearth in opportunity. And I don't know, I think if you're someone who's a bit younger coming into the industry, it's a lot different today than it was, many years ago, and probably a lot less exciting. There's definitely a lot less mentorship and nurturing. There's not that water cooler culture where you can gather around and share stories and have just a bit of camaraderie around the work that you're doing. So I think from my perspective, and a lot of what we do at Kin is we try to figure out the ways that we can draw on a little bit of what you touched on, Marissa. What are the microcultures? What are the subcultures? What are the interest areas, if you will, of talent that's coming in? And how do we fuel that? How do we empower that? How do we provide opportunity for talent to delve into, if you're really into, for example, travel, or if you're really into going out and I want to say drinking, but not in the horrible way, in the very positive way.
Socializing.
Socializing. That's the word I was looking for. How do we?
Drinking is not a dirty word on this end of the panel.
Right?
Let me tell you.
It's a big non-alc movement now, but anyway, but I think the point you made is socializing. Yeah, if you're into that, how are we making those opportunities for you, and how are we convening people, and whether it's bringing team members to Jamaica for a week to hang out. And yes, we work 9 to 6.
Can I work for you?
Can I go?
We work 9 to noon, but then from noon to 6 p.m. it's team building. How are we getting out and exploring and seeing a different culture and learning some patois and just having a great time? We focused a lot on that because I think it's how do you replace? I don't think we're ever going back, right? Because COVID, I think, materially changed corporate culture and how communities in from an employee perspective engage. But how do we take advantage of that? And how do we create a net new experience that can be as fulfilling and as enriching?
Anybody else, Jenna?
Yeah. So our industry changes. I mean, we're all here this week to learn, right? There are 500 something panels here for us to get educated on advertising and marketing and all the things that are changing. And so it's very hard, I think, to hire for a specific skill set or hard skill set of I know how to do this one thing, because we don't know if that thing is going to exist in 5 years, right? So when you're thinking about hiring, my approach to that is always hire for attitude. Are they excited to do this? Do they find joy in it? You know, back to Kwame's point, if they're not excited about it, they're not going to do it. So do they want to tackle a challenge? Are there somebody who can work in this sort of ambiguous space that is always ever changing? Do they thrive in that challenging environment? And usually for me, that doesn't come across on a resume. So I always want to pick up the phone and have a 5-minute conversation with a candidate before we just say, nope, you're out because you don't have X, Y, and Z on your resume. So I think then giving them the responsibility instead of the tasks, right? Give them ownership over the things that they can take pride in. Really allows for them to succeed and to really get the best out of them when they feel like this is my reputation, this is my work product, not I'm a cog in this larger wheel.
It's a attitude, aptitude, but also curiosity. Like you want people who want to continuously learn and challenge themselves because this industry is so fluid. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one little one. So what's really lovely about building a company is you get to start from scratch, right? And you get to decide how you want to build your team and all of what you guys just said. Yes. I'll give you one specific example. I have my first hire is somebody I've worked with for a long time, and we were talking about, okay, well, you'll come into the company, and what's your title going to be? We were doing all the usual stuff we would normally do in a large corporate-ish environment. I'll just say that. And the two of us, put all that to the side and looked at each other. I said, you know what your role is? And his name is Phil, so this will make sense in a minute. I said, your role is to be full Phil, right? Because Phil is a designer on a piece of paper, but Phil is also a strategist. Phil is also a biz dev guy. Phil is also like somebody working in his, barn on XYZ projects. Phil is also building brands. Phil is also, so that's what I want out of all these people. And I think it feeds what you're saying. It feeds your soul, it feeds your mental, but it also feeds the broad capabilities that we haven't been so good at because we said we're hiring for that particular role and they need to have those skills to do that particular role. So fulfill is now his title.
And people need to be specialists across the board, right? And actually, we're going to move into external communities, but I wanted to throw it to Marissa actually for this one because I want to talk a little bit about AI is kind of changing how we're doing everything. But there are still concerns about AI, even though it is literally, I'm sure we're using more AI yesterday, everybody, than we did the previous day, and it's just going to be like that exponentially going forward, right? So Marissa, give us a little bit about, how can brands ensure that AI-driven campaigns resonate authentically with diverse communities and avoid tokenism?
Is it fair for me to say they can't?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's start there. Let's
this is
start,
a safe space.
Let's start with truth that says it's difficult to give that generalization and tell them that they can't. Now let's figure out what we can do. And we all know the numbers. I was looking earlier today, I think, and if someone has better numbers, yell it out. But I think right now, in terms of programmers, less than 20% are female, and less than 4% identify as people of color. Less than 4%.
What's the problem with that?
So exactly. And you are what you eat. So AI is who programs it, right? At its core, it begins with that person. And I like to think and hope these people aren't coming from a nefarious mindset, but they're coming from ignorance, right? And just pure definition of the word ignorance. Some of them may have bias, some of them may be racist, but a lot of them are just ignorant and they don't know. It's not their lived and or learned experience. So they cannot transfer and or translate that to the AI they put into the world. And that AI then begins at that base level and grows from there. And the growth it pulls from various articles and information a lot of times either is skewed, is truly incorrect, or is something that you would have to nuance through to truly get the real truth in the matter. And so for AI, it's not going to do that. It's going to go very analytical and it's going to keep building from there. So I tell people all of the time, it'd be great if we could lean into AI and we could use it as that tool to take that heavy load off. But for now, pay my agency to do it instead.
All right. Oh my God, we only have a few minutes left. But Kwame, actually, getting into the external community part of it, in the recent Ad Age article that's publishing today, you said it was important to draw a distinction between an audience and a community. So, what are the key factors that differentiate the two, and how should brands adjust their strategies to foster true communities that create two-way interactions?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important point, and as marketing people, as creatives in the industry, we're used to sending a message to people, and I think that started to change with the advent of digital. There's an understanding that it's not a communication to someone, it's a conversation, and I think that mindset to me is what defines brands that are very successful at nurturing community. It's understanding that they're not building for, they're building with. It's understanding that it's not about what they stand to gain, it's about what the community needs and what they can empower. And I think there's this understanding that they're there for the long haul. It's not a flash in the pan, it's not a firework, it's something that's designed to endure. And maybe the fourth point is, I think you're extremely successful when you can connect the action that you're taking to your business in a way that allows it to sustain itself and continue to build and grow over time. So while it's helping empower a need of that community, I've used that word a lot today, it's also helping to unlock business growth, and brand growth, which makes it sustainable. Because I think the worry is, and it's a very fair concern from a lot of brands, and this is, I think, also what was indicative of the CSR movement a couple years ago. It's one time. It's a very philanthropic mindset that a lot of people approach this work with. But honestly, if you do it well, if you connect it to your core values, if you connect it to your business, if you connect it to a real community need, it will endure, and it becomes a force multiplier. I think Chobani is an excellent example of this. A company that I spent a lot of time working at, but it did so much to uplift community and society overall, and for that reason, people go to the shelf and they pick up those cups and they eat them, because it's also nutritionally great food.
I want to throw it to Jenna, our brand representative again. We talked about Lightkeepers before on the internal side, but talk about your own audience, the external communities that you're building, and how the past few years have affected them and how that's affected your brand.
Yeah, definitely. So when we think about our guests, right, they're economy lodgers, but they're not just economy lodgers. They really are economy movers. They're the people that move our economy forward. And that light was really shined on them during the pandemic because they were the truck drivers getting the vaccines. They were the traveling nurses. They were stocking our shelves. They were building our infrastructure, right? And so during COVID, I think we put this new light on them and are able to celebrate and tell those stories. But when we're thinking about sort of motivating them and mobilizing them to come to our brands, our brand was started in 1962 with the idea that everybody deserves the right to travel, and it is a right and not a privilege. And so when you come back to this idea of democratizing travel and you think about providing access, every campaign we do comes back to that core idea of providing access and how we do it for different communities and what they're traditionally being excluded from. Now, we can't just, to Kwame's point, just talk about it, right? We have to have an ESG component. We have to have a nonprofit partner that we are going out there and saying we truly are supporting this community. We truly are a part of it, and we truly are here for you. We're not just trying to get your business and hope for the best.
All right, a few few seconds left, Suzanne. Can you just tell us what the role of creativity plays in building those connections with external audiences,
Yeah, of
communities?
course. Thank you. So audiences are not sitting around waiting to hear from brands. And I love what you're saying, actually, because you're earning the right to be in their life in some way, shape, or form. So creativity is paramount to that. Whether you're building an ecosystem and everything has to align, or whether you're just figuring out exactly what your brand should be doing that is essential or that is meaningful in someone's life. So, without that, you don't earn that right. You don't earn that role in their life. So I can't imagine a more important thing for creativity to be solving.
All right, well, unless Marissa gives us 25 more minutes, I think we're done. I want to thank everybody for attending today. Jenna, Marissa, Suzanne, and Kwame. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
John.
Thank
Please follow the
you.
list at